Signs of Tradition and Wonders of Experience, a devotional for the seasons of Advent, Christmas, and Epiphany, produced by Northside Church. Monday, December 2nd. Our scripture passage today comes from Exodus chapter 1, verses 1 through 7.
These are the names of the sons of Israel who went to Egypt with Jacob, each with his family: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. The descendants of Jacob numbered 70 in all. Joseph was already in Egypt. Now Joseph and all his brothers and all that generation died, but the Israelites were exceedingly fruitful. They multiplied greatly, increased in numbers, and became so numerous that the land was filled with them.
Much like the birth of Jesus, the story of Moses' birth begins with a family record. We don't care as much about family history today, but in the time of Moses and Jesus, it was a huge deal, a marker of identity, place, and purpose in the world. In other words, it was a deep marker of tradition. Before we learn anything about Moses as an individual, about his birth or childhood, or even who his parents are, we learn that Moses is a descendant of Israel, that is, of Jacob, the son of Isaac, the son of Abraham. It's almost as if the writer of Exodus is telling us, hey, this is part 2. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, you really should if you want to understand the whole story. Of course, part 1 is the book of Genesis, which takes place some 400 years prior to the sequel. There we learn about how God called Abraham and blessed him, and in turn made him and his family a blessing to all families to come. We also learn that Abraham himself was the product of God's blessing of humanity when he told them,
"Be fruitful and increase in number."
Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. And this is exactly what the Israelites have done while in Egypt. They were exceedingly fruitful. They multiplied greatly, increased in numbers, and became so numerous that the land was filled with them. So before we meet Moses, we know that he is part of this blessing, part of this fruitfulness, and the result of God fulfilling God's promises. This is quite a family and a tradition to be born into. But if we are familiar with the story, we might also ask, what are the Israelites still doing in Egypt? Yes, we know about Joseph and his brothers, and we know how Joseph saved his family from a life-threatening famine by housing them in Egypt, but it's been 400 years now. Why did they stay? Didn't God promise them a different land, a land of their own? Perhaps their experience of fruitfulness led them to forget their tradition, their story, maybe even their God. Whatever the case may be, Moses is born into a family that is far from home. This fact makes me take pause, particularly during the season of Advent, and ask, how far from home am I? What traditions have I forgotten due to recent experiences? Do I even know who I am or where I come from? Perhaps we as a church should take a moment to work out our own genealogy of faith, the tradition that gave birth to us, and ask, have we forgotten who we are?